In today's video, we are going to learn how to use SQLite with Python. Even if you are a complete beginner, SQLite is a super simple way to store data with no server needed. It's just a file. It's perfect for small applications, projects, or if you're just learning database. So let's dive right in. Before jumping into the code, we want to understand what exactly SQLite is. So SQLite is a lightweight file-based database. That means everything, your tables, your data, even your settings, gets saved in a single file on your computer. And best of all, Python has a built-in support for SQLite. That means we don't need to install anything extra. Python comes with a module called SQLite 3 that we'll use. So let's jump into the code. SQLite also comes with a documentation. In here, you can find all the details that you need and the guidance to start building an SQLite database. They even have SQL language documentation, which obviously it's going to be used in order to create a database with SQLite. But we will not look at the documentation for today's video. We will try to do the basics to create a database. For today's video, we will use SQLite browser in order to see the tables in a visual way, in order to see the data that we have. So you can come on this website and press on the download and download the installer according to your system. Now let's start the fun part. Let's build our first SQLite database. First of all, we have to import SQLite 3. This is the built-in module I was mentioning in the beginning we can use in order to access SQLite. Now, the first thing that we have to do is a connection, and I will name this con, and in here we run SQLite 3.connect, and in here I will name my database according to whatever it's needed. I will call it my database.db, saving this. And the second thing, I have to create a cursor. Cursor, it's the thing that runs your SQL code and does the magic. So let's create a cursor. I will name it cursor, which is con.cursor, and in here we call it like this. Now, this is our first connection to our database. The second thing we have to do is create our first table, right? Because right now we don't have any table. So let's try to do this. In here, I want to use my cursor to actually execute an SQL statement. So let's go into here and let's type create table if not exists. I will call this table users. So in here, I have to pass the columns. So I'm going with ID, which is, let's do this because it helps to visualize this easier. So we go with ID, which is an integer. It's a primary key, obviously, and it's also auto increment. The second thing is, let's say name, which is going to be a text. And the last thing, let's go with, I don't know, age, which is going to be integer. So this basically is a SQL statement, which I'm running using my cursor. And here we are creating a table called users with 3 columns, which is ID, name, and age. And then if this table does not exist already, it will create it. The good thing about this is that it won't create if it already exists. So let's run this and see what happens. Right now, I won't receive any output, so I'm gonna print here done or something, just to have something in my code. So it printed done. Let's look into the files. As you can see, I have my database right here. Now let's go over how the DB browser for SQLite works. So let's open this and let's go with, let me grab the path to my database. Let's open this. Let's go to this. And in here, I have my database.db, which when I open, it already created users. As you can see, if I go with browse data, I'm going to users. You can see that we have 3 columns. We have ID, name, and age, but right now we don't have any data inside. So what we're gonna do next is to insert some data. Let's see how we can do this. Okay, so we will leave this as it is. And for the next thing, we want to add some data. So we go with cursor again, because as I mentioned, this is going to execute all the SQL code we insert. And now we go with insert into, we go with users because this is the table name. And then after that, we have to pass the columns we want to add, which is name and age. We don't want to add ID, obviously, because that's an auto increment value. And then we pass values. And in here, let's see what we want to add. We can either do this, and after this, we go with comma and type, for example, button, which is, let's say, another value for age, 28. This is first data. And if I want to add multiple values, for example, I can do this. And in here, insert another name, which is Larissa. And let's go with 31. And now if I'm going to run this program, this is going to insert some data into my database. So let's see if that works. I'm going to print Donnie here just to make sure it works till the end. Okay, let's switch to the database and see if we get something real quick. Okay, so in here, if I'm going to refresh this, nothing happens. And let me show you why. So this here, it's going to execute, but in order to have everything committed to our database, we have to do a commit as well. So I'm going to do connection.commit, and this is going to have this committed to our database. Let's run this again. Okay, this has been finished. And now if I'm opening the database again, yep, and I'm doing this, as you can see, we have the IDs, we have the names inserted, and also we have the ages. So this is the simplest way you can create a database, which is locally. You don't have to have a server or anything. It's just a file, this file right here, which holds everything. Now, let's say I want to read some data from my table, right? So I'm going to get rid of this. And let's say I want to read the data inside my database in order to get into my Python code and play with it or manipulate it or whatever you want. So I'm going to use cursor again, but this time I'm going to execute a select, which is, let's select everything from users, for example. And this thing, I have to store it in a variable, right? And I'm going to use cursor and I'm going to fetch all because I want to get all the data that I'm getting from this statement right here. Now, what I can do is iterate through through rows, and in here I want to print a row, and we can see that now what we will get are two tuples. First tuple is basically the ID, the name, and the age of the first data from my database, and the second one is the ID, name, and age for the second data in my database. This reads all users from the table and prints them one by one, as you can see here. Besides the commit function that I showed you, which saves the changes that we do in our code, we also have something that is called close. And we have to make sure we use this, because otherwise, if multiple programs or scripts are using our database, not closing this will basically block the database and might get locked and unable to let other applications to access it. But do this only when you are done with the execution of your code. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So even if it's a short video, we can recap what we did today. So we connected to a SQLite database, we created a table, we inserted some data and also read the data that we inserted. We also know how to save the changes that we make, and also we know how to close the database. In the future videos, we will be probably using this in order to create different projects, right? So stay tuned, and if this helped you understand how to use SQLite, give this video a like and maybe subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next tutorials I'm going to post on this channel. And if you have some feedback for me, like how I can improve the way I'm teaching or the way I'm explaining things, please write that down in the comment and let me know. We will see you in the next video.